This training session is going to be on buyouts. To start with buyouts, what we do is we come up to miscellaneous up on top of the menu, and you go down to feature initialization. And at the feature initialization screen, come down to list the features containing the words or phrases buyout. When you do that, you'll notice about halfway down the screen, there's one that says show buyout info and create PO button on the sales order detail. So what I'm going to do, this is feature 2782. I'm going to click on the show buyout info. I'm going to also click on the show create POs button. And you also have the option to not allow POs to be created for the sales orders on credit hold. And then at the bottom, you notice right here it says prompt for PO ship information or do not prompt. The first one I'm going to do is do not prompt. Once I save that, by clicking on the save button up here in the corner, I click on that, then I can close down the feature initialization. We're now ready to put in a buyout order. So I'm going to click on sales and go over to my processing submenu and click on enter orders and quotes. At this point, I'm going to type in O for order. I'm going to hit enter on the sales order number, enter on the date for today's date. It brings in my sales rep, and I can come down, and for this we're going to use customer ABC. Now right here, this is an order, not a quote, so on the PO number, I'm just going to type in a PO number. Ship via is going to be our truck, and on the ship date, I'm just going to put in any date. You can type in any date you'd like. I'm going to come down and click on order detail. Now on the order detail button, when I click on order detail, the sales order detail screen is going to be pulled up. I'm going to hit enter on the line number, and on the warehouse ID, I'm going to hit enter. At this time, I'm going to buy out some plate. So if I typed in my item IDs as PL1 and hit enter, you notice then it's going to pull up all of my plate item IDs. In this case, let's say I wanted to buy out some 7/16 T1 type plate. I can click here. I can click on the button to select it. I come down to the material source and I do B for buyout. You can also use the little drop down menu here and choose buyout or direct. The first one we're going to do is buyout. Your vendor ID, if I know the vendor that I'm going to do the buyout for, I can type it in. This can also be input later. But let's say I type B here and hit enter. It's going to show me everybody that is all the vendors that I can do a buyout for. So in this case, it's Buyout Steel. I'm going to click on that and select the vendor. If I know the per pound or hundredweight or per lot price, I can type it in here. So let's say Buyout Steel. In this case, I know they're going to charge me $43 a hundredweight. Now it prompts for quantity ordered, and let's say they want 34 pieces of a non-standard size. Maybe they want us to order something that's 47 by 92. The system then goes out, figures out the weight there for the line weight, 18,000 pounds. I can come over here, I can put in a margin bump of 20%. So now I can say, all right, I'm going to charge this person $53 per hundredweight, and I can say line finished. You notice when I say line finished, it puts the line in purple or kind of a bluish purple up in the grid. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another line. So at this point, I can click on new for the next line, or I can just hit backspace to clear the line. And now I'm going to do another buyout, but this time I'm going to do something that I don't have. So let's say if I type in BR1, I'm going to hit enter. And in this case, it shows me all my cold finish round, but you notice on the 3/4 inch I don't have it. So I'm going to click on it and buy it. And I'm going to again come down. I'm going to do a buyout. And this time I'm going to do to the same vendor. I'm going to type in BA and choose the Buyout Steel. And in this case, they're going to charge me $39 a hundredweight. And the quantity ordered is 4 pieces. And in this case, I have the length set to inches, and let's say they want some standard 144 inches. Okay? So now I'm going to come over here and type in the margin of 20% and come down here, and let's say, but I want it to do pricing per pound. So that's 48 cents a pound, and I'm going to do line finished. Now at this point, you notice that I have 2 lines that are buyout lines. They're both to the same vendor. What the system's going to do is it's going to search through the sales order when I create the PO, and it's going to look for all the ones where the vendor's the same, and it's going to create a PO for that. In this case, it will create 1 PO for each of these lines. Now, what we're going to do now is I am going to do one more line, but it's going to be to a different vendor. All right, so this time I'm going to click on New for the line. And maybe this time we wanted to do, I'm going to type in RT, and I'm going to look up all my rectangular tube. Let's come down and order some 10 by 4 by 1/4 inch rectangular tube. And in this case, I'm going to do a buyout, but I'm going to order it from, let's say, Hammer Steel. At this point, you notice my default's different there. It's a per 100 foot. That doesn't matter. Let's say in this case, I actually want to do 50 cents a pound. I can do that as well. And in this, I can order pounds or pieces, however we'd like. And let's say in this case, I want to do, I'll do 3 pieces. And I'll do a non-standard length of, let's say, 84 inches. Okay. So now I can come down here, also put in my margin. I want to make 25% on that. And I save the line. Now what I'm going to do is, you notice down below I have a Create PO button. Now I'm going to show you in a bit, you can also turn on a feature initialization that if you forget to click this button, it will automatically prompt you and say, hey, you forgot to create the PO. Do you want to create the PO? But for this instance, I'm actually going to click on the Create PO button and show you what happens. Purchase orders were created for all the buyouts. Now, when I come up here and I click on line 1 and highlight it, you notice the PO says 12004 line 1. This one is also from Buyout to Buyout Steel, and it's going to say PO 12004 line 2. If I come to the third one, it's 12005 line 1. I can at any time click on any of the lines, print the PO, and then it can print it to screen, and I can also email that over right then to the vendor, or I can elect to do that at a different time. But once I click on the PO button, I'm gonna print this to screen, and then you'll see what the PO looks like. This is the PO, and as you notice, it has both of my lines for the PO to Buyout Steel. And at that point, I can email it over as well. If I want to print the other PO, I can click on it, print the PO. And the first thing it'll do is it will preview it to screen. It's a little slower on my system right now because I have a few things running that are slowing it down, but it will print. And then you see right here, it's the rectangular tubing. And I can, if I want to email, I can just click on that email button. And the email button then will email it directly to Hammer Steel Corporation, and it'll include it as a PDF, and I can then, it'll call up my email. If your email is Outlook, it interacts directly with Outlook, but you can also interact with various different emails if you're using Firefox, or we've also now got it so it's also working with Gmail. But if you notice, there it is, and the email's pulled up, and that's the purchase order in a PDF format. So that is a general buyout. Now what we're going to do is we're going to save this line and show you when we save the line. I don't want to add a surcharge, so I'll say no. But if you forget to do the PO, you notice at the bottom is this, if you forget to print it, you can also print it from these select forms to print screen as well. So now what we're going to do, that is sales order 11782. And what we're going to do is show you a few things that happen after you do the purchase order. Now, after you do the buyout and do the purchase orders. Now, when the purchase orders are received in, you can come in and you can receive them in through the purchase receiving screen. You can also receive them in directly from the shipment detail screen. So if I go into sales and invoicing and come to shipment detail, and my orders came in today and I do 11782, you notice that it has my lines here, and I can highlight those lines and I can receive the line in. So if I receive in the line, you notice it just goes and pulls up the receive inventory screen. So I could say on the receive inventory screen, I'm going to do PO line 1, and you notice that's for the 34 pieces. So I can assign a tag and a heat number, and then I can receive in the 34 pieces. Once you're done with that, I could also do the line 2. In this case, I just hit enter and receive in the PO line 2, put in the heat number. I don't want to add a chemistry, and I just put in my 4 pieces. When I do that and print and post that receiving, watch what happens. The system's real time, so as you post the receiving, it will then tell you that there's auto reservations for that, but we already know that that's been reserved. And you notice now these two have been received in, they're green. The third line hasn't been received in yet. I could receive it in this way by clicking on the receive line, or I could go to the receive inventory, to the receive purchase order and receive it in that way. So that's a general buyout. Now a few tricks on the buyout. If we go back to the miscellaneous and the feature initialization, let's come down and list our features buyout. Let's come down here and show you a few of the other things we can do. This one right here says prompt to create POs for buyouts when saving the sales order line. That's the thing that I said that if you forget, you can turn this to yes and it'll prompt you. Another thing you can do is some people don't want to go after they've created the purchase order using the sales order and the buyout option. They actually want it to prompt them for some additional ship information. So let's turn this on. And let's go back and do another sales order and show you the difference. In this case, we're going to show you two features. We're going to show you the buyout feature to prompt for the ship information, and I'm going to show you the request for quotes feature. So I come in here and I'm going to do the same, another sales order to ABC, type in our PO number, do our dates, and click on our order detail. Now, once we get to the order detail, I'm going to do something a little different. Right here, I'm going to receive in an order for something that I don't even have the item ID in stock. So right here, I'm just going to type in SO. Okay, now when I hit SO and hit enter, you notice I have some right there for something called special order angle. So I'm going to click on the special order angle. And in this case, you notice the name just pops up. So I can do anything. So if I wanted to do some 1 by 1 by 1/8 inch angle, and if I knew the unit weight, I could type it in. If I didn't know the unit weight, I could also put in the line weight and it'll backfill that weight in for me. So in this case, let's say I want to buy out, and I'm going to do the hammer steel again, and I want to do at $33 a hundredweight. And in this case, I'm going to do some poundage instead of pieces. I want to do 500 pounds of the 1 by 1 by 1/8 inch angle, and we'll do 144 inches. You notice right there, based on that, it brings in your weight. But watch, what I was telling you before, whereas if you change this weight to 550 pounds, watch what happens. It will actually allow you to, when you save, oh, well, sorry, I already had the unit weight filled in. If you don't have the unit weight filled in and you put in this pounds, it'll ask you and it'll fill in that unit weight. In this case, it thinks you're just overriding the weight of 500 pounds to 550 pounds. You put in the margins, and now we're going to come and we're going to do per pound, and then do 41 cents a pound. And then we're going to do line finished. Now, watch what happens here as I do this create PO. So I'm going to create the PO. This time, it's going to create the PO, but it's going to prompt me for information first, like how do you want to have it shipped. We're going to do Swift trucking, and we're going to do it to hammer steel and have it pull in the address. But then it allows you to overwrite, change the address, change the contact, where maybe this time it's June. June White is our contact. And you can do that information from here and save it. That's when we turn that feature on, that's what happens. And then it creates the purchase order for all items. So that's a regular purchase order buyout. Now, one other thing you can do is you can create request for quotes. Let's say in this instance that we are doing some more of that bar that we were doing. So I type in the BR1 for bar. I look, and I'm going to do some of the 1 3/4 inch cold finish bar, and I come in, but this time I'm going to do buyout, and I don't know who my vendors are. I'm going to get quotes from a lot of different vendors. All I know, it's a big order, and they want 5,000 pounds, and they want 5,000 pounds of 240 inch pieces. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and at the end, I'm going to say line finish, but right here, I'm going to say this create PO button, so create RFQ, excuse me. So I'm going to create RFQ, and this time I have set up in the system to create, I can create an RFQ for these vendors. I can also add a vendor. So let's say I want to create PO for hammer and Nucor. I could also add a vendor. And let's say I also wanted to create, an RFQ for Buyout Steel as well. Sorry, I have to hit enter and display the records. So I'm going to add Buyout Steel to that. I'm going to create RFQs, requests for quotes, to all of these vendors. I click OK. And at this point, when I'm done with the order, watch what happens. I do order finished. And at this point, it asks me if I want to create the purchase order for the buyout items. I turn that feature on. I'm going to say no, because I created the purchase order for the first line. What I'm going to do now is, when it comes to the pop-up screen and it does my print, I'm going to show you, instead of the sales order, the pick ticket, we're going to come down and we're going to click on RFQ. So let's go preview those RFQs. The first one is a request for price to Buyout Steel, where they can, for the 5,000 pounds, and they can fill in their hundredweight price. And at the bottom of the order, they can also put their freight in there, and when it's expected to be, they'd be able to send it to you so you could receive it. If I close this, so I could email it to them by clicking on the email button. As I close this down, it will pop up the next one, which is the request for price to hammer. And then the last one is, I close it down and bring it up, it was a request for price for Nucor. Now, once you're all done and you send those requests out, let's say they call back in and Nucor has a quote for you. Well, all you got to do is you pull up the order. I'm going to type in O for order, type in the sales order 11783, and in this case, I'm going to go back to the order detail. And you notice at this point, I can highlight that second line, and I can edit the RFQs. So I can come down, I can edit the RFQs, and Nucor's called in, and they've given me a price of $43 a hundredweight. So what I'm doing is I'm just saving the value. Now, as Buyout Steel comes in, they can maybe call in at a different time. Maybe Buyout Steel calls in, and they're going to give me $42.50 per hundredweight. I save the value, and Hammer Steel calls in later, and they give me $41.50 per hundredweight. So at any time when I've saved these and I'm done, at any time I can come in and edit those RFQs, and I can print the RFQs from here, or I can award that RFQ to one of these vendors. In this case, I look and I say, okay, let's award it to Hammer Steel. I click on it and award it. You notice when I do that, it fills in Hammer Steel. It fills in the price they quoted me at $41.50 a hundredweight. And then up here, if I edit, you notice it even brings in the margin that I wanted. So I'd say 25%. I can change it. I could change it to 30%. And then I can send my order out by clicking on line finish. I can then do a PO, and my PO will be created for the Hammer Steel for the additional items. So if I now create POs, the first PO was, I believe, oh yeah, we already created the first PO, and so the next one, all I'd have to do is create the PO again and fill in the information. And in this case, it's Hammer Steel again. Now, the only thing you have to be careful on here is if you do that, if you created the first PO, remember I created the first PO already, and then I did a request for quote. If you do that, it's going to create a PO for the Hammer Steel, and you notice it's PO 12006, and the second PO is going to have to create 12007 because the other PO was already created and printed. So that's how the system works, and it does a nice little purchase order buyout for you. It goes in and saves that purchase order, and at any time you can go edit that PO by going over to the purchase order screen and clicking on the purchase order and bringing it up. And that is just brief training on the purchase order buyouts from the sales order screen.